हेलो फ्रेंड्स। आज 55 हो और हम अब लाइव है हिंदू पर लेकर हम लोग सबसे पहले चाहूँगा कि पेपर को शॉर्ट में के बाद हम लोग डीप में फर्स्ट हेडलाइन इन केरला एज ए साइक्लोन पैसिफिक में सिर्फ हम लोग हेडिंग देंगे ओवर 4,500 मिसिंग डेथ्स इन दिल्ली कोविड-19 funerals overshoot death toll by government. Hello, in of 199 in of 119 BR doctors get to get Israel strikes media building camp in Gaza City. Iran moves US court to attach AI asset. As administration clamps down, NNOs for a struggle to control. We can, I think, बाद में heading में देखेंगे और सिर्फ ओवरव्यू लेंगे के बाद ओवरव्यू लेने के बाद deep in case beds province arrested for cheating women on text text of arranging remdesivir drugs. Kejriwal announced oxygen concentrators bank for patients. Riots quoted Danish Belflage pledge of accept Councillor Tahir Hussain. Capital report 6,430 fresh infection, 337 deaths. Positivity rate dips further. Job for 45 plus. App says fresh stock of Dodge has arrived in city. Shopkeepers advised to flow odd even in Kadara. Over 1K crore given to civic bodies. Department office a job notice inviting people for any examination. Heavy rain, heavy rain, strong winds, last parts of Kerala. Kerala moves into total shutdown from Sanskrit scholar Lakshmi Lakshmi Achar dead. Out at a Mamta over Nandigram. COVID-19 response Algalad in Haryana, Algaris Congress. The forms panel to tackle feature webs. Navy teams deployed in Kerala amid rain. Killed in Kerala as cyclone intensifies. NGMA virtual workshop from May 17. NGMA means National Gallery of Modern Art. For 4,500 missing deaths in Delhi. Elephant, elephant carcasses found in groups. Dismissed the Hindu webinar into AI cyber. Adityanath Amrinder is in aspect over the new Punjab standing gap between Doge as scientific for Kern moves US court to attach AI assets. Kuwait to deliver more medical oxygen in Y. 12FA 1 declares 3-month ceasefire fire kiting pandemic. RL Bhatia, former Union Ministry, dead. Chauvish 24 arrest in Delhi over posters. 0.92 lakh stress infections, 308,007 death reported. Virtual takes a big toll on central staff. 21 booked in Kashmir for anti-Israel state. Sorry दोस्तों. 24 booked in Kashmir for anti-Israel state. I think this is essential for our ये for our exam. Why I want to discuss this paragraph.
21 booked in Kashmir for anti-Israel stir. Special correspondent, Srinagar. At least 21 anti-Israel protesters were booked by the J&K police on Saturday, a day after Kashmir saw a spree of pro-Palestine protests and graffiti on the city walls. 20 people were booked in Srinagar and 1 in Shopia, IGP Vijay Kumar said. The J&K police have warned of action against those elements who are attempting to leverage the unfortunate situation in Palestine to disturb public peace and order in the Kashmir Valley. The crackdown comes a day after the Padshahi Bagh and Safa Kadal areas in Srinagar witnessed smaller non-violent protests. Among those booked and arrested included a graffiti artist who drew a crying Palestinian woman and wrote the slogan "We are Palestine."
तो इसके आगे देखते हैं फ्रेंड्स. All begins Geolite cargo service. Public government had become attentive after first wave. Gujarat fatality figures reveal dispense. संयुक्त किसान मोर्चा plans to observe 26 May as a Black Day. Why संयुक्त किसान मोर्चा plans to observe 20 May 26 as a Black Day? So I want to discuss this topic to long form, यानी को अच्छा से हम लोग देखते हैं और समझते हैं कि क्यों.
Sanyukt Kisan Morcha plans to observe May 26th as Black Day. It appeals to people to raise black flags at houses and shops. Press Trust of India, New Delhi. The Sanyukt Kisan Morcha, an umbrella body of over 40 farmers' unions, on Saturday announced that it will observe May 26th as Black Day, marking 6 months of their protest at Delhi's borders against the centre's 3 farm laws. In a virtual press conference, farmer leader Balbir Singh Rajewal appealed to the people to raise black flags at their houses, vehicles and shops on May 26 to protest against the contentious farm legislations. On May 26, we will complete 6 months of this protest, and it also happens to mark 7 years since Prime Minister Narendra Modi formed the government. We will observe it as Black Day, Mr. Rajewal said. A large number of farmers reached Delhi's borders on November 26 after facing water cannons and police barriers as part of their Delhi Chalo march against the centre's farm laws. Thousands of farmers from across the country joined the protest in the following months at Tikri, Singhu and Ghazipur borders around the national capital. Mr. Rajewal appealed to the people to support the call for observing Black Day on May 26. Demands not heard. We appeal to people of the country and also Punjab to hang black flags at their house, shops, trucks and other vehicles. We will also burn effigies of PM Narendra Modi as a form of protest, he added. He said that the government has not heard the farmers' demands to repeal the 3 farm laws, and with increasing prices of fertilizers, diesel and petrol, the farming business is not possible. Hundreds of farmers have been camping at Delhi's borders since November 2020 demanding that the Farmers Produce Trade and Commerce, Promotion and Facilitation Act, 2020, Farmers, Empowerment and Protection, Agreement on Price Assurance and Farm Services Act, 2020, and the Essential Commodities Amendment Act, 2020, be rolled back, and a new law made to guarantee minimum support price for crops. However, the government, which has held multiple rounds of formal dialogue with the protesters, has maintained that the laws are pro-farmer.
लोग आगे देख. महाराष्ट्र बीजेपी claims MK is funding Tata. The expanding discrimination community. COVID-19 deaths are being under-reported. Congress. Violence rocks Gaza, Israel and West Bank. This is important for our current affairs, so I want to discuss this topic.
Violence rocks Gaza, Israel and West Bank. Ahead of UNSC meet, US envoy Hadi Amr flies in with an aim to work towards a sustainable calm. Reuters. Gaza/Jerusalem. Israeli planes renewed their strikes in Gaza early on Saturday, and Hamas militants responded by firing rockets into Israel as their battle entered a 5th night, and US and Arab diplomats sought an end to the violence. Palestinian medics said at least 4 people were killed in one of several airstrikes in northern Gaza. Residents said Israeli naval boats fired shells from the Mediterranean, though none may have hit the Strip. The Palestinian Religious Affairs Ministry said Israeli planes destroyed a mosque. A military spokesman said the army was checking the report. Sirens sounded in 2 major southern Israeli cities, warning of incoming fire from Gaza. Hamas claimed responsibility for launching rockets. With no sign of an end to the fighting, casualties spread further afield, with Palestinians reporting 11 killed in the occupied West Bank amid clashes between protesters and Israeli security forces. At least 132 people have been killed in Gaza since Monday, including 32 children and 21 women, and 950 others wounded, Palestinian medical officials said. Among 8 dead in Israel were a soldier patrolling the Gaza border and 6 civilians, including 2 children, Israeli authorities said. Ahead of a session of the UN Security Council on Sunday to discuss the situation, Biden administration envoy Heidi Ammer, Deputy Assistant Secretary for Israel and Palestinian Affairs, flew in on Friday. The U.S. Embassy in Israel said the aim was to reinforce the need to work toward a sustainable calm. Israel launched attacks on Friday to destroy what it said was several kilometers of tunnels, launch sites and weapons manufacturing warehouses used by the militants in an effort to halt the rocket attacks. Across central and southern Israel, from small towns bordering Gaza to metropolitan Tel Aviv and southern Beersheba, people have adjusted to sirens wailing, radio and TV broadcast interruptions and the beeps of cell phones bearing red alerts that send them rushing for cover.
Mars landing gives China a space program a leg up for country to achieve the feat after Soviet Union. I want to discuss topic deep form.
Mars landing gives China's space program a leg up. Third country to achieve this feat after Soviet Union, the US. Anant Krishnan. China landed a spacecraft on Mars carrying its first Mars rover in a big boost to its space ambitions, the country's space agency said on Saturday. China had in July last year launched its first Mars mission, called Tianhui-1, meaning questions to heaven, carrying a lander and rover. Tianhui-1 had been in orbit since February, and on Saturday, a lander descended successfully onto the surface of the red planet carrying a rover named Zhurong, named after a god of fire for a planet known in Chinese as the Planet of Fire. Only the Soviet Union and the US had previously carried out a successful landing on Mars. China's official media described 9 minutes of terror during the descent, the hardest part of the mission. The descent was extremely complicated with no ground control, and had to be performed by the spacecraft autonomously, Geng Yan, an official at the China National Space Administration, CNSA, Lunar Exploration and Space Program Center, was quoted as saying by state media. Each step had only one chance, and the actions were closely linked. If there had been any flaw, the landing would have failed, he said. The rover will provide first-hand materials for research on the planet's space environment, surface topography, and soil structure, the CNSA said. China's leadership sees the space program as an important part of China's ambitions to close the technological gulf with the US. President Xi Jinping on Saturday described the Mars landing as an important step in China's interstellar exploration and said it had left a Chinese mark on Mars for the first time and was another landmark progress in China's space industry development. China had previously tried to launch a Mars orbiter along with Russia in 2011, but that failed to enter orbit. This attempt, on its own, hit the target. China's Mars mission, along with lunar mission and space station, is key to its space program. In 2019, the fourth lunar probe, Change 4, carried out the world's first landing on the far side of the Moon. The Mars mission was launched the following year. China is also investing heavily in its manned space program, as plans accelerate for its first space station, set to be functional by the end of next year and only the second space station after the International Space Station. Last month, a Long March 5BY-2 rocket carried out the first of 3 components for the space station, called the Tianhe or Heavenly Harmony Module. Thomas Abhuchain, of NASA's Science Mission Directorate, congratulated China. Together with the global science community, he said, I look forward to the important contributions this mission will make to humanity's understanding of the Red Planet.
That ended appointed White House senior advisor. Myanmar army battles rebels in northeast town. Iran heavyweights Rijani ICV for presidential turnout strike killing 12. China nixes bids to climb Everest over virus fear. And the importance of low positive. I want to
Testing and the importance of low positivity rate. Although the second wave came more than a year after the first, India's testing infrastructure remained insufficient and underprepared. Rajo M. John. Early detection and isolation of potentially infectious individuals are the keys to successfully fighting a viral pandemic. The importance of diagnostic testing to facilitate this cannot be overemphasized. A widely deployed and efficient testing strategy can go a long way in limiting the spread of new cases as it significantly reduces the chance of individuals with undetected virus exposure from roaming freely among unexposed individuals. Specialized kits. Depending on the type of diagnostic test used, testing can turn out to be expensive in terms of machinery, manpower, and other resources, especially when these are at a limited supply. COVID-19 testing required specialized testing kits that were not easily available in January 2020 at the beginning of the pandemic in India. Although the World Health Organization, WHO, had declared coronavirus outbreak a public health emergency of international concern on January 30, 2020, and India had also reported its first case of COVID-19 on the same day, until about the second half of March 2020, India's COVID-19 testing was largely confined to symptomatic airport travelers and contacts with known sources. India went into a complete nationwide and staggered lockdown starting March 25, 2020. However, our testing strategy for SARS-CoV-2 was still being evolved. A closer look at the different revised testing guidelines from the Indian Council of Medical Research, ICMR, throughout the period of the pandemic shows the scope of testing got gradually expanded to include different population subgroups only as new incidences of novel coronavirus infection were reported from those groups. Instead of using it as a preemptive strategy, our testing strategy appeared to be a game of catch-up with the spread of the virus. Naturally, the virus always outsmarted this testing strategy. A complete lockdown is widely perceived as a tool to expand resources, including ramping up testing infrastructure along with other healthcare infrastructure instead of being a solution in itself. However, an analysis of the progression of India's COVID-19 cases and testing reveals that the growth of testing lagged behind that of cases during the pre-peak phase of both the first and the second wave. The second wave saw daily new cases growing 3 to 4 times higher than the growth of tests. Vastly underprepared. Although the second wave came more than a year from the onset of the first wave, it appears that India's testing infrastructure remained highly insufficient and vastly underprepared. This becomes obvious when we see that average daily new cases recorded during the second wave grew more than fourfold compared to that during the peak of the first wave, while the daily average testing grew only by 60% during the same time. At the end of the first wave of COVID-19, in early February 2021, India was doing about 63 tests per detected case, while the daily testing has decreased to 4.5 tests per each detected case during recent times. Even at the peak of the first wave, India was doing about 11.4 tests per detected case. The average daily test positivity rate was only 8.5% at the peak of the first wave, whereas the average positivity rate reached 22.8% a few days ago when India was reporting close to 4 lakh daily new cases. The WHO, on the other hand, recommends raising daily testing enough to bring the test positivity rates below 5% level. Glaring statistic. Yet another glaring statistic points to the serious deficiency of testing during the current wave of this pandemic. India reported a total of 108 lakhs COVID-19 cases with the help of 20.3 crore tests during the first wave that lasted about 375 days. However, for the second wave so far, in 95 days, India already reported 130 lakh new cases by conducting only 10.6 crore tests. At about 229 tests per 1,000 people, India's testing remains below that of 112 other countries. There has been wide variation in testing across states in India too, ranging from a low of only 76 tests per 1,000 people in Nagaland to 1,314 tests per 1,000 people in Lakshadweep. Among the larger states, Madhya Pradesh, West Bengal, Rajasthan, and Uttar Pradesh carried out the lowest number of tests per 1,000 people, while Delhi, Jammu and Kashmir, Kerala and Karnataka did the highest. In recent days, however, several states including Karnataka, Kerala, Andhra Pradesh, Rajasthan, Punjab, Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, Chandigarh and Arunachal Pradesh have been decreasing their daily new tests even as their test positivity rates are still rising. If the tests are reduced while the cases are still rising, it will manifest in an increased test positivity rate. While the reduced number of reported cases may be inadvertently interpreted as a peak of the present wave, the pandemic will continue unabated whether we detect more cases or not. The downside to this would be an unnecessarily prolonged pandemic straining our healthcare system and the economy even further while putting more lives at risk. Combined capacity. Dr. Balram Bhargav, the chief of ICMR, in a press conference on May 11, stated India has a daily capacity of doing 16 lakh RT-PCR tests and 17 lakh rapid antigen tests, which indicate a combined capacity of 33 lakh tests per day. Yet, it is unfortunate that India has not done even 20 lakhs of daily testing on any day from the beginning of this pandemic. For a country of 140 crore people, it is grossly inadequate. It is high time India makes use of its full testing capacity and augments this capacity even further to effectively fight this pandemic. The growth of testing should far outpace the growth of the cases in order to be ahead of the epidemic curve rather than chasing it. Rajo M.
New approach combines antibody drug new seeking species and guards. For elephant seal, it is hard to population of 914 through my hardness in assessing organ COVID-19 Islamiyat militants and nationalists all in one. From a student leader to buying on leader to regional identity. Pharma career has evolved over the years. Deep Khan, A. Prem Kumar, a student leader, Congress minister, rebel, and now the much feted chief minister of BJP ruled Assam. Sam Himanta Biswa Sarma I has covered almost the entire spectrum of politics in with Assam with a reasoning essay. The position culmination of a politics journey that started at one in which he successfully moved from one politics of cultural and a regional identity to the BJP overarching idea of one nation, one culture. Known of his oratory from his early days, Mr. Sharma, like from that generation, plunged into student politics by becoming of the powerful All Assam Student Union, a student body that have captivated students leader like Prafulla Kumar Mahanta and the late Bhigu Kumar Khan as the state chief minister and home minister. Assam education from 1979 to 1885, also known as the anti-fragrance movement to detect and deport undocumented immigrants from Bangladesh. Not only say the emergence of Assamese sub-nationalism, but also a breed of standards. Politics was tied to the question of cultural identity and regional aspiration. Post the signing of the Assam Accord in ASU became the training ground of many regional leaders, including Mr. Sharma and his predecessors as the Chief Minister, Sarbanda Sonowal. The late 1980s and 1999s, when student leaders dominated Assam political landscape under the shadows of Mr. Mahanta and Mr. Chavan, who had founded the Assam Ghana Parishad. AGP Mr. Sharma has or HBS is as he is known as politics circles went to the Students' Union of the prestigious Cotton College, now upgraded as a and of many comebacks, underrated by an attempt to life former President Ernest by and firm.
A man of many comebacks. Undeterred by an attempt on his life, former president vows to return stronger. Meera Srinivasan. Illustration, Srijit Akumar. It was past 11 p.m. on September 23, 2018. The banquet hall of the three-star hotel in central Colombo was buzzing with young men and women. They were restlessly following updates on a big screen showing live news from another island, not far away. The chatter in the way he was hard to follow, but the outcome they desired was clear. They wanted to see the common oppositional candidate from the Maldivian Democratic Party, MDP, win the crucial presidential election. Watching the developments intently, but calmly, was former president and exiled leader Muhammad Nasheed. He had played a critical role in that poll. His party colleague Ibrahim Muhammad Solih's decisive victory against incumbent Abdullah Yarmin, widely regarded an authoritarian leader, gave the Maldives another chance with democratizing the Sunni Muslim nation that is home to over 5 lakh people. Destiny has a habit of always choosing the right and the good. When history is on the march, you can't stop it. President Yarmin has to go, he told the Hindu that night. In the international arena, Mr. Nasheed is best known as the Indian Ocean Archipelago's first democratically elected, 2008 to 2012, president, who was controversially ousted and convicted on terrorism charges that the Maldivian Supreme Court later deemed wrongful and quashed. He shot to global fame as a climate hero in 2009, when his government held the world's first underwater cabinet meeting. In the realm of domestic politics, Mr. Nasheed, 53, is arguably the country's most charismatic politician, consistently speaking out against religious extremism and corruption. A week after the MDP alliance's big election win in 2018, Mr. Nasheed landed in Male, ending 3 years of exile, as huge crowds thronged the streets to welcome him back. Barely 3 years since, during which time the ruling alliance won the parliamentary elections, and Mr. Nasheed was appointed speaker, he was targeted in a deadly explosion in the capital 10 days ago. Mr. Nasheed survived, although with seriously receiving treatment in Germany. The police arrested 3 suspects allegedly involved in the terror attack that they have linked to religious extremists. While observers have flagged religious extremists, corrupt individuals, and political rivals as forces hostile to the ex-president, the motivations or actors behind the May 6 attack remain unknown, with no one claiming it as yet. Challenging time. The assassination bid targeting Mr. Nasheed not only exposed security threats within the country, but also came at a politically challenging time for Mr. Solih, who is confronted with mounting criticism and a relentless pandemic imperiling its economy. The local council election in April was a reality check. Despite beating the opposition in total, the party lost its traditionally held mayoral seat in the capital. However, the party's problems did not stop Mr. Nasheed from constantly pressuring the government to act on corruption allegations. The speaker openly accused senior cabinet ministers of corruption, in an act that his critics saw as a deliberate effort to embarrass and discredit President Solih. Some party insiders sensed a deepening rift within the MDP. The ex-president's political ambitions are no secret, as his pet demand for the Maldives to transition to a parliamentary system of governance shows. Soon after the local council election last month, Mr. Nasheed confronted President Solih on the subject, reportedly conveying his desire to lead the country as Prime Minister. President Solih, seen as a leader more amenable to the MDP's diverse alliance partners, maintains that the system of governance could be changed only by the citizens' will. Meanwhile, political debates on hold, and national security under the spotlight. Mr. Nasheed himself was shocked, according to his family. "We don't know who did this, but what we know is Nasheed is not safe here. Those who wanted to eliminate him will see this as a job unfinished," Ibrahim Nasheed, brother of the former president, told the Hindu from Mail. But that is unlikely to deter Mr. Nasheed, who has vowed to return stronger. Ahead of his departure to Berlin, he told nurses treating him, "I have already planned my comeback speech."
Council to GST refund drive or user Rasta US RT for truckers in the state. Solafin holding Super net 31.97 group to invest 125 crore. State restricting is the new turn point. Adal prices into the Pernina Plisokwa take on a IG Twitek for honors in women's लिवांडोव्स्की लेवल पर एथलीट्स a decision on to otherwise of Rhine Ferry. Indian tennis teams for Asia Oceanic competition are a must. Why man? They are open to reinvesting sandpaper gate. तथा लेकर disappointed eye on Veda. Hence, IPL players unsure to sure for PV test. क्या बात हम लोग कर मैगजीन जो है ये आप लोग देख लीजिएगा। मैं डिस्क्रिप्शन बॉक्स में और ग्रुप ये पेज रहेगा, ये आज का रहेगा तो वहाँ। और हम लोग लगभग 5-10 साल से आइए। अपने चाहूँगा कि आप लोग चैनल को सब्सक्राइब कर और चैनल से जुड़े रहिएगा, क्योंकि ये हमें